All right, guys, I'm gonna do a butcher haul. I've never done a butcher haul. I've never shown you what I buy at a butcher. I've done these at grocery stores a bunch, and this is an amazing butcher that I found in Arizona. You'll see why when I go in there, but let's go in. I'm gonna show you all kinds of good animal-based stuff in here that I'm gonna get. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. This is how I shop at a butcher. Let's go. So like, this is cool. I mean, I'm really impressed by this. Like, I've never been to a butcher shop where it's all grass-fed. Yeah. So this is from, which farm did you say this is from?
There's actually two. We deal primarily 80% or so of our beef. We deal with Arizona grass raised in Chino Valley, which is about 2 hours north.
Okay.
It's raised to 48 months and up. So
4 years.
4 years. Yeah. So in the big picture, most commodity cows are raised to 16 to 18 months, and at that point, they're pretty much on their way out. You know, it's a turn and burn operation. They want them to get fat as quick as possible, and that's why they finish them on corn and soy and grain. Right. These animals are on pasture their entire lives. We do business with approximately 20 different farms and ranches, primarily in northern Arizona. They're all third-party certified through the American Grass-Fed Association.
So they're eating grass their whole life.
That's right, as they should. So the Arizona grass-fed stuff is particularly special because it's local, because it's 4 years of age and up. It develops big, rich, robust flavor. It has tons of nutrition and taste as an animal like that should. And then the other ranch that we deal with that we carry some supplemental stuff is Richard's Grass-Fed, Northern California. They're a regenerative farm. I believe they're 4th generation, so they've been around a while. Cool. They're doing a really good job. Yeah, I mean, the older cows, you don't get that very often. Like the older cows, it's less profitable, or it's not as, the margins are different. Like, but they're, like you said, there's more nutrition in there. The beef, it just looks like, we don't have any commodity beef here to compare it to, but like, look at, I mean, I'm sure we can get that on the video, but like, look at the color of that ribeye. It's crazy. It's like so dark. And I think just like fruit, guys, when you're in the grocery store and you see a really red apple, your body realizes like that's nutrition. That's what you want. It's a red apple. And same with meat. Like when I go to a store that has both grass-fed and grain-finished meat, you can tell the difference in the color of the meat. And I think that color is absolutely reflecting nutrient content. Yeah, I agree with that. We break down whole animals here. That's another benefit of shopping at a whole animal butcher shop is we get organs, we get bones. We do a proprietary blend, which we call the Unstoppable.
That has organs in it.
It does, yeah. 5% heart, 5% liver, and of course it's all organs that we get from Arizona.
Amazing. Yeah. That's cool. Can we come back and see what you got in the fridge? I mean, what butcher shop is going to let you go behind the counter and like see what's in the fridge? You making sausage here?
We are, yeah.
All right, sausage making.
Yep.
What's in that?
Go back. So this is all pork. We do around 60 pounds or so of link sausage every 2 weeks, and we do everything from scratch here. That's, you know, kind of why we exist, is to make sure that we have ultimate control over ingredients and things that going in and things that we don't include. But this is all pastured, non-GMO, no soy, no corn pork. That's a Berkshire cross from Washington State. We grind everything here. We season everything here. We've got all of our spices. There's no spice kits that we order. It's all stuff that we do grassroots. That's
awesome, dude. Yeah. Props. Because like you said, I mean, this is a very intentional pork. I'm usually not a huge fan of pork, but it's corn and soy free. And it's pastured. I guess they still have to feed it some grains, but yeah, it's got to be far better than most pork out there. And the casing is just intestine, right?
That's correct. Yep. It's casing, and
that's traditional sausage.
And these are Danish hog casings. So the reason that's significant is because they're not coming from a commodity pig in the States.
Oh, wow.
They're coming from properly raised pork from overseas.
Yeah, I guess this is why sausage is so delicious, guys. You get like meat and spices inside of the intestine. I mean, even the casing on a real sausage is valuable because like that's an organ. I mean, there's probably a unique benefit, I would say, to eating the intestines of animals, and there you can get an intestine of an animal in a sausage. So double bonus.
So we got
good spot.
Bacon hanging, ready to go in the smoker for
This tomorrow. Is bacon?
That is, yeah.
Is that the pork? That's pork belly?
It is pork belly.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's the very same animals that we sell in the case.
So the corn and soy free.
That's correct. Yep.
Unique pork, okay.
Yep. We've got lamb, local lamb from Parkquist Hollow. So this is a pastured animal as well. These come to us around 50 or 60 pounds. And then we've got all kinds of pork and all kinds of beef primals that we're selling for Christmas.
Those huge ones, that's a primal over there?
Yeah, so it's technically a subprimal, but primals are basically just dividing the cow into its major components. Subprimals are smaller components of the primal. So that would be a rib roast. Those are 7-bone rib roasts. And then we've got some beef aging over here, which would be New York and ribeye, both from Arizona grass raised.
And how do you age the beef? So this beef is like open air.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it's going to be a little oversimplification the way I describe it, but it has to do with temperature, time, and airflow and humidity.
Okay.
So the way that we do it isn't exactly a science like you would get at something like Pat LaFrieda's, some of those really well-known guys. But we just allow it to essentially putrefy. That's the word.
It's like rotting in some ways.
That's exactly what's happening.
But it tastes good when it rots.
In a controlled environment.
In a controlled way.
Right.
And then when you get this like dry aged meat, do you cook the whole thing or do you cut part of it off?
No, we cut away the desiccated tissue, anything that might have a few moldy patches, and then we trim off the bones and anything that's not going to be palatable ultimately for the finished product. And part of the reason that dry aged beef is a little more expensive is because there's substantial yield loss, right? So yeah, once we get everything off that's not going to be tasty, then you're left with something that's concentrated and something that has broken down enzymatically as far as tenderness is concerned.
More tender. When I've had dry aged beef in the past, it's like different flavors. Like, how would you describe the flavor of dry aged beef versus regular beef?
A lot of people will say, so at about 30 days is where you get maximum tenderness. Anything beyond that is aging for flavor. You develop a lot of earthy, nuttiness, cheesiness almost.
Okay.
So you're getting all of these really complex flavors that we don't really associate with beef after 30 days.
Okay.
25 days, 60 days, 90 days.
90 days?
Some longer than that.
Wow.
So you get a very concentrated piece of meat. It doesn't have as much moisture, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because that's concentrating this thing.
And that's unique to get like grass-fed meat that's dry aged.
Yes. Products that we source are, like you said, intentional. That is a big buzzword nowadays with food, but when we say it, we take it to heart. We mean it. We say eat with intention.
Yeah.
Feed yourself, eat with purpose.
I love that. Can I see one of those subprimals?
Yeah, of course.
So somebody would just buy this and then cut it up.
Yeah, you can buy it, you can cut it up. We sell them with the bones sheeted off and then tied back on for roasting. The bones provide protection and flavor, and we sheet off the bones and tie them back on because it's a lot easier for the amateur to carve.
And then what are these big guys? This is a big hog.
Yep. Yeah, and so these are the Klingeman family farms that we spoke about earlier. We get these in halves, all skin on, and we break these down into their primals and then subprimals and do all kinds of house-made charcuterie and deli-style meats with them as well.
So where does the bacon come from? Here?
It does, yeah.
The bacon is the belly.
Yeah, exactly. If you visualize about 5 ribs in from the first rib here, is where we separate the shoulder, and then right around this last lumbar vertebra, before the tailbone, is where we separate the ham and the sirloin, which is basically ham, sirloin here. And then so you're left with this section, and you get loin, which are all of your chops right here, your rib chops, loin chops, and porterhouse and or just loin section. And then your belly is going to be what remains after your loin comes out.
So this is the spine right here.
That's correct.
The spine, and then like I guess the spinal column would be there, and take all that out.
And that's your nerve cord right there.
Yeah, that's like
It's actually a really well split animal. Sometimes they don't look this good.
Really?
Yeah.
And you can see all the vertebrae and stuff there. Yeah. And that's a pig. I mean, I guess a cow is similar in terms of where everything is.
Very similar.
Where the cuts are.
Yeah, quadruped anatomy is by and large pretty much the same. Things like this give us a lot of options. Again, we like getting skin on pork. Skin is delicious. If you had crispy pork skin, it's incredible. So yeah, this provides us the ability to dry age pork, which is definitely a thing that's being more talked about now than ever. But pork improves with age, not the same as beef. Typically, dry age pork up to 21 to 30 days is really good for tenderness and also a little bit for developing flavor. But for the most part, pork is really good fresh, but dry aging is definitely a thing for certain cuts.
And what do you got here? Ground beef?
Yeah, this is actually all of our sausage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're going through and stuffing sausage tonight. We've got breakfast sausage, which we sell in bulk.
So the pork I'm interested in because a lot of pork today is just fed grains. And I've talked about the fact that when you feed a pig grains, especially corn and soy that are high in linoleic acid, the pork fat becomes enriched in linoleic acid. So you said this pork is actually pastured.
It is.
So the pork gets to like move around.
It does.
That's pretty rare, isn't it, for pigs?
Typically, commodity pork is kept in misery, just like a lot of animals.
So what do these pigs eat?
A lot of things that you can find in nature. So typically with a pastured pig, they're eating anything that you can find on the forest floor or open pastures.
Okay.
With insects, bugs.
Insects, bugs.
Yeah, they will literally eat.
The pigs eat grass?
Yes. They will. They'll eat weeds. They'll eat all types of things. But a varied diet for a pig is of the utmost importance. It's very important in our health.
Right. And you said they're not fed corn and soy.
No.
And I've heard they'll actually eat like little animals too, like little mice sometimes.
Yep.
Wow.
If they can catch them, they'll
Yeah, they're pretty. That's interesting. It's so varied.
They have a voracious appetite, hence eat like a pig.
Tell me about the ground beef because that's kind of special, isn't it?
It is. So the ground beef comes exclusively from Arizona grass-fed and finished animals, and we grind it fresh here every day. It's an incredible value. It's $8 a pound, which is pretty much unheard of.
And what cuts go into ground beef?
A lot of different cuts can, but the way that we do it here is full animal trim because we don't want to limit ourselves to chuck or brisket or short rib or anything like that. It's important to get, I think, all of the cuts of the animal because it's a true representation of the flavor of the animal. And so ours ranges about 80-20. Sometimes it can be a little bit fattier. I find the fattier is better personally.
I agree.
But everybody has kind of their own thing. More or less, ground beef is done intentionally to use up things that come off of cuts. So once you're done cleaning up something that goes in the case for aesthetic purposes, then everything that's left over is ground beef. It's not necessarily the case with us. We actually will supplement our whole animal supply with ordering bags of trim from Arizona grass raised, which are just large chunks of really nice looking beef that they take from typically some of the leaner, tougher cuts.
I'm a huge fan of skirt. So skirt steak, am I correct in saying that inside skirt, is that the diaphragm?
So that's really good. So there's inside skirt and
outside skirt.
Outside skirt is technically the diaphragm.
Okay, outside skirt is the diaphragm. Do you notice a taste difference between inside and outside skirt?
Yes, if the animal has been hung for a week or two, the outside skirt, the diaphragm, is going to have a richer flavor, a little more organy, but in a good way, because it receives more oxygen.
Oh, interesting.
The animal is split.
Oh, wow.
It's more exposed than the inside skirt is.
Okay. And where's the bavette from?
The bavette, so that's also known as the sirloin flap. In Arizona, where there's a lot of carnicerías and a lot of Mexican or Hispanic influence, they call it a ranchera steak, and that's the most popular cut for carne asada.
For a grass-fed ribeye, that looks pretty good in terms of like fat and the marbling. Like in Costa Rica, we have Brahma cows, and you get ribeyes and they're blank. There's like
those ones with the big horns.
Big horns, and they have a hump on the back, and they're good at hot temperatures, but they tend to be pretty. They don't have a lot of fat. It's not terribly good.
There's some similar breeds of cattle in the UK where you see, or I'm sorry, France actually. France, they get these massive cows, and they have very little fat cover and very little intramuscular fat, but they're very proud of the beef there. I mean, it looks really, really good, but it does lack all of the fat that we used to see in like a corn-fed or grain-finished cow.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing I forgot to mention earlier is we only harvest the females. So we only harvest cows.
Oh.
We don't harvest steers.
Why is that?
We find that the meat is better.
Is a steer, is a steer a technical term for a bull that's been castrated? Or does a steer have balls?
So that's a good question. You're gonna get me here because I don't want to give the wrong information.
We can look it up.
I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
But you guys have liver?
We have beef liver. We get beef liver, beef kidney, beef tongue, beef heart. Yep. Yeah. We have heart as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Well, thank you for showing me all this stuff, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I'm so stoked, man. I appreciate this place, and I appreciate what you guys are doing, and it's just cool to talk to a butcher. I've never done a video where I just talked to a butcher about different cuts and showed people like how it all is made. So
yeah, that's a big deal to us. We really believe in the process, and we're sourcing the very best products that we can find as the most important thing. Yeah. And then we just try not to mess it up.
I think that like this is the type of thing when I go to Europe, you see butcher shops like this. Yes. It's a dying thing in the States. It's becoming Target and all the grocery stores. And those butchers just can't do it at this level of quality. So thanks for doing this.
You're very welcome.
Check this out, guys. This is pretty cool. This is everything I was just talking to Dustin about. You got chuck roast up here in the shoulder, and you got different cuts that are coming off the chuck. The brisket is here, lower, foreshank, short plate. You got the flank steak down there. The skirt steak is back here, which is where I guess you're gonna get a hanger steak from. The sirloin here, you got top sirloin, sirloin steak. I imagine that up here is the sirloin flap. You got the round. So this goes into ground beef. This goes into ground beef. The brisket sometimes goes into ground beef. I think I'm saying the right things. But it's cool. Then you got the ribs on the back here. That's where you get your ribeye and the New York steaks from. So like the New Yorks are back here a little bit. It's cool how the cow is all broken down and you can see like where all the steaks come from. I'll tell you guys a secret. If you can go to a butcher and find a hanger steak, that is my favorite cut of steak. So if you're still watching this video, you got the bonus content at the end there. Like hanger steak, that's the one to try. But I love skirt steak. I really like bavettes, which are the sirloin flaps. Those are my favorite. Ribeye is actually not my favorite steak. But that's pretty cool to see where it all comes from. This is all you need to know. Ground beef for president. GB 2024. I support that fully. Ground beef for president. So that's the Underbelly Butcher here in Arizona. Stoked they let me look around and told me all kinds of stuff. I'm traveling here in Phoenix, Arizona for a conference with the Make America Healthy Again movement. I'm super excited about what's happening now and the potential to have massively positive changes in our government, which enable people to be healthier. And this place is cool because this is like my mecca, guys. Coming here on this trip to Arizona was amazing. I was able to get raw milk, tallow, eggs, butter, organs, good cuts of beef, which are grass-fed. So wherever you are, try to find a butcher near you. I hope more places like this start popping up. And overall, remember, this is health food. This place, this is all of these things I talked about today are superfoods. You've been told all these foods are bad for you. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I strongly believe that the more of the foods I talked about in this video, meat, organs, tallow, animal fats, raw milk that you eat, the healthier you're going to be. That is all you need to know. See you guys in the next video.